congratulations on being admitted. I want to welcome all of you to our first Facebook Live for admitted students. To introduce ourselves, my name is Charles Murphy, and I'm an Associate Director in the Admissions Office.
And my name is Sammy, and I am an admissions counselor.
So we're here tonight to answer all the questions that you have as admitted students about the University of Illinois. We're on campus here in the admissions office. Students just left to start their winter break, and we know some of you are probably doing the same thing. So we were lucky enough to get some questions ahead of time, but Sammy will be monitoring questions throughout the Facebook Live.
Yeah, so feel free to post any questions that you have while we're talking. I'm going to go ahead and start with some that we actually received this weekend from students prior. So to start, we got a question asking, when is the last date that I can accept or decline my offer? So to give you an idea, for us and for many schools, that date is actually May 1st. So feel free, of course, if you're excited, you can absolutely accept right now, or as soon as you have all the information that you feel comfortable to do so, but please feel free to take your time because you have until May.
Yep, and you're going to find that that's the same for pretty much every four-year college and university, so you're probably hearing the same dates for other places, so definitely no rush, but plenty of time before May 1st gets here and you have to make a decision.
Okay. And then we had another question. Do we need to send the official high school transcripts right now, or should we be waiting to do that?
Yeah, so you all went through the admissions process, so you know that when you applied to the university, you self-reported all of your courses and grades to us. So at the end of the day, we actually do need your official high school transcript, but you don't need to send that to us now. The only time in which we need your high school transcript is after you graduate. So in the summer, once you graduate from high school, make sure to request your final high school transcript. Obviously at that point, it's only for students who have decided to come to Illinois. Obviously we hope all of you watching decide to do that, but you'll send your high school transcripts to us in the summer after you graduate, and we'll need that before you get started with classes in August.
Perfect. All right, and then one more to start off with here from our comments. So this student was wondering how to apply for financial aid as an international student. Just to give you an idea, we don't actually have financial need-based aid available to international students, so I would encourage you to look for private scholarships or thing on your end that you can bring to us, because we don't have that available through the FAFSA for our international students, unfortunately.
Yep. But that does bring up, a good point for those of you who are domestic students. So students who are U.S. citizens or permanent residents, regardless of where you live, are eligible for financial aid. So maybe let's take a minute or two to talk a little bit about that process and what it looks like now that you've been admitted to the university. As you may know, this year the FAFSA opened up a little bit earlier than usual and opened up back in October. So we actually know that thousands of students, including hopefully many of you that are watching us now, have already filled out the FAFSA and sent it to the University of Illinois. And one of the really cool things about the university, if you're admitted and you're looking on your admitted student checklist, is if we have your FAFSA, it'll show up on your checklist. It will give you a little check mark and say, yes, thank you for submitting the FAFSA. So we have what we need to consider you for need-based aid. So maybe I'll let Sammy talk a little bit about the timeline of when that information is going to come out.
Yeah, and for those of you who are still working on it, our counselor Zoe actually just wrote a blog post on this, but for our Illinois residents, try and finish that up within the next day or so, because we're looking to get those FAFSA documents by December 21st, which is actually tomorrow, so that you can be fully considered for the MAP grant. Now, once we have all your documents, you've filled that out online, you've submitted it, then the Office of Student Financial Aid is going to take over, and they are going to be sending you your financial aid award by around February at this point. So that's when you can anticipate receiving that.
Yep, so if you put sort of all the timeline together, what we've talked about, you've gotten your admission decision right now. Hopefully you've already filed the FAFSA. If you haven't done that yet, do it as soon as possible. Again, particularly if you're an Illinois resident, do it today or tomorrow. Mid to late February is when you'll get your financial aid package, and again, you have a little bit of time to digest that, look at what it looks like for you. Certainly we know you might be looking at other colleges and universities, do your due diligence with those as well. And then again, you have until May 1st to decide whether or not you'll be coming to the University of Illinois.
Which answers another question that we've gotten, which is, can I wait to accept my offer until I know about my financial aid package? Absolutely, yes, because you'll hear that mid to late February, you'll still have plenty of time to use that information to go ahead and make your decision. All right. Did you have some questions?
Yeah,
as well?
definitely have some others queued up, and again, feel free to type in some questions if you have them as they come up. Again, Sammy's sort of going to be checking those and looking for questions as they come up. But again, we have some that we know we've gotten from students over the weekend and the first couple days this week. One of the questions that we've gotten is a little bit about honors programs and sort of how those work at the University of Illinois. So I guess a couple things quickly to say about honors programs is that when you apply to the university for freshman admission, you are automatically considered for honors programs. So some of you who were admitted this past Friday, when you were admitted, you got some information that you were admitted into an honors program as part of the admissions process. So there's nothing additional that you needed to do. You've been selected for that. And in the coming weeks, you're going to get some more information specifically about those honors programs from the college honors, and then if you were a Chancellor Scholar, directly from those programs. Now, if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, it doesn't look like I was admitted to an honors program, we always want to point out that just because you don't get in as a freshman, you always have an opportunity to get in a little bit later. So once you come to campus, if you enroll at Illinois, you're here for at least a semester and establish a GPA, you can nominate yourself. So perhaps if you weren't selected during the initial process, during the application process, if you're interested in honors programs, just know if you perform well at Illinois, you have the opportunity to apply for those and get into honors programs. Again, there's a lot of great information on our website about those honors programs. Definitely call our office if you have any questions, but that's something that we often get questions about for students who got into honors programs or students who are maybe looking to get into honors programs after they enroll at the university.
All right, so we have a few questions now about changing majors after we've been accepted maybe into an alternate major from the one that we applied to as our first choice. Specifically, I'll start with one student wants to know about transferring into the College of Business. We'll go ahead and start with that one, about the process and requirements to be accepted into the College of Business, or perhaps doing the ICT, which we can talk about overall after we enroll. So what that'll look like, if you choose to change your major after enrolling, typically students will start changing their majors at the end of their freshman year and onward. As soon as you know that you want to change your major, though, begin to have that conversation with your academic advisor so that they can best kind of guide you on what that process might look like and what you should be doing to prepare for that major change, that intercollegiate transfer, ICT I mentioned before, so that you're ready to do that at the end of your freshman year if possible.
Yeah, and just to sort of add on a little bit to what Sammy said, every college has their own process for ICT. Again, that's sort of some Illinois lingo there, intercollegiate transfer. And some will have specific prerequisite requirements that you'll need to take. So I know the question was specifically about business. They, for example, will ask you to take 2 math courses and 2 economics courses during your first year at Illinois, and then the rest of your courses would be taking general education and other graduation requirements. And then you apply to the College of Business once you've done those econ and math courses at the end of your freshman year. Again, each college has its own requirements. There's a great website resource for that that you can use to see what the process is. But your advisor is definitely going to help you with that process, whether you're pretty sure you want to change your major or, honestly, we know a lot of students who come into the university, whether they come in undeclared or not, you might not be 100% set on their major and might still be at least exploring a little bit. So you definitely want to talk to your advisor about that, keep your options open, and usually, again, that change period is going to be some point during the sophomore year.
Mm-hmm. Now we had another student who was interested in learning a little bit more about, he was accepted into prep and wanted to know if he could go into, I believe it was computer volunteered. So I believe, could you just talk a little bit more about those students who are accepted into our new prep program, what it might look like for them to then move on in their next steps?
Sure, absolutely. So for those that don't know, the university just started a new program called PrEP, which is our pre-engineering program. So that's for students who have applied to our College of Engineering. College of Engineering is one of our more selective colleges, so there are some students we know that are very good students, but we don't have room to admit them to the college as first semester freshmen. So they are able to go into the pre-engineering program if they've been selected for it. And then through that pre-engineering program, they have some specific advising through the Division of General Studies in that pre-engineering program, specific for students who are intending to declare an engineering major. They have access to the prerequisite courses they'll need to take during their time at the university before they change into engineering. And then depending on what engineering major that you'd like to change into, there are some different guidelines that can guarantee you admission to the College of Engineering. If you go to the Division of General Studies website, there is a little bit of information about the pre-engineering program, and it gives a little bit more details on some of the benefits of being in pre-engineering, some of the logistics as far as coursework that you need to take. So probably, again, not surprisingly for engineering, you need to take some calculus, physics, maybe some chemistry depending on the particular engineering major that you're looking at. And then also know what GPA do I need to get, what type of grades do I need to get in those courses and overall to be able to change in. So it's really streamlining that process of getting into the College of Engineering. And again, there's a lot of great information on the PrEP website through Division of General Studies.
Yeah. So Lauren had a great question and was asking if it's common to live on campus for all 4 years, or do most students leave after freshman or sophomore year? So to give you an idea, we do have a mix of students doing both. There are absolutely fantastic options on campus, and there's fantastic options off campus. Know though that if you choose to stay on campus, you are guaranteed housing for all 4 years. And then within housing also, make sure to check out that we have a couple different living learning communities, because that's a great way to build actually kind of exactly what the name states, a smaller community where you're going to live and learn with a smaller kind of subset of individuals that share a similar background or interest as you. So that could be a great way to start, and then as you go throughout the years, you could definitely explore a lot of the different options that we have on and off campus here. Okay, and then, oh, this is a great question. Elise wanted to know, how can one transition from a small school to such a big one?
Yeah, that's a really, really common question that we get in the admissions office, and our students get a lot. I'll take maybe a brief second, I'm sure I'll do it later as well, to plug visiting campus. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we are on winter break right now, so not terribly crowded with students at the moment. But if you visit campus, you'll get an opportunity to talk to students, and that's a question that we get a lot and students are able to answer. But to answer the question sort of from a staff person's perspective, I think it definitely is a transition for any student coming to the University of Illinois. Whether you do come from a large school, we have 33,000 undergraduate students. I'm willing to bet even if you're at a relatively large school, that's going to be a little bit of a transition. And certainly if you're coming from a small school, I can think of a couple of our tour guides who were in graduating classes of 30, 40, 50 students, enrollment at their high schools somewhere between maybe 200 and 400. So that can be a pretty big transition. But I think one of the great things about Illinois is we have this large, diverse campus, and I think what you'll hear from students is they really can find their niche on campus, and they can find that through academics, through their major, creating a small community academically, but also creating smaller communities through clubs and organizations. That might be joining a fraternity or sorority, a religious organization, just something that you love doing. I think that's one of the ways in which the campus really shrinks a lot, is joining those clubs and organizations where you have a similar interest or similar background as some fellow students, and you have the ability to make those smaller communities. One thing that I definitely would say is true about Illinois in the size is that, definitely you need to show some initiative. And we know from reading your applications and how great all of you were in high school, and all of you still are in high school, that you have the ability to do that. But I think once you show the initiative at the university, you can have personalized and individualized interactions with fellow students, faculty members, staff members. So I think that's another maybe tip for helping the transition is really not being afraid to ask for help in a class, not being afraid to walk into walk-in hours or with your or office hours with your professor, or drop by an information session by the Career Center. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And again, I think you'll find that campus shrieks a lot.
Yeah, and Charles talked a little bit about getting involved, which actually ties me into a question that we received earlier, which was campus traditions. So actually, one of the favorite traditions that we have on campus is Quad Day. And now that is every year, the Sunday before classes start, all of our different student organizations, our different resources, all different opportunities we have for you to get involved on campus, show up and show off at the Quad. And that's your opportunity to check out what they're doing, check out what your interests are, and get involved that way. So go with some new friends that maybe you met on your residence for that weekend, or you came across checking out the dining halls, and go try out something new, like for example the squirrel watching club or the skydiving club. And it really does make the campus a lot smaller when you get involved in all sorts of those different types of things.
Yeah, I'll also, while Sammy's looking at what more questions might have come in, I'll also plug athletics. I think being a Big Ten school, that's one of the great traditions that we have, and sort of the rivalries that we have within the Big Ten. I know personally I'm a huge basketball fan. Actually, I went to a game the other week against Central Michigan, and that was great to go to, the renovated State Farm Center. And I know Big Ten play is opening up in just a couple weeks. There's a big rivalry game tomorrow night in St. Louis. I don't know if anybody's tuning in from the St. Louis area, but Missouri and Illinois play every year in St. Louis, and that's a great game that'll be on tomorrow night. So I think that's another thing to mention again. Maybe not for everybody, but I know for the sports fans out there and people like me, that's one of the really great things about the university.
So we got a few questions here about how to do a double major or a dual degree. Just to give you some insight on the lingo there, a double major, those are going to be two majors within the same college, whereas a dual degree will be two majors within two different colleges. Now, students definitely do both at Illinois, but some majors are easier to combine than others. So if you do have an idea that you would like to do either a dual, or a double, just make sure that you're having that conversation with the colleges to see if they can be combined within the same timeline that you were anticipating.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit more to that, you definitely see the most common double majors in liberal arts and sciences. It's our largest college, both in terms of enrollment and in terms of number of majors. So it's really the place where you're going to find the most number of students doing double majors. And then to, again, just piggyback a little bit more off of that, we have literally thousands of students who are doing minors across campus, doing minors within the same college, doing minors across colleges. We see that a lot. We know, again, through reading your applications and seeing what you've done in high school, that you may have one main interest, but you have interests all over the place. So there's opportunities through minors, double majors, to really explore those interests.
Okay, so Jonathan wants to know, he is interested in vocal performance and wants to know if there are a lot of ensembles that are music related available at Illinois. So absolutely. To give you an idea, overall, we have over 1,300 student organizations, and many of those are different performing arts ones. So depending on what area you're interested in within vocal performance, you can absolutely find a group to suit your interests. And then, let's see. Can you give some insight into the James Scholar Program?
Sure. So I talked a little bit about honors earlier, but maybe to get a little bit more info, James Scholar Program is specific to each college. So the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences is a James Scholar Program, Applied Health Sciences, Fine Applied Arts, etc. So all the colleges have their own James Scholar Program. So what you will find is that it differs a little bit from college to college, and it's not the same across campus. So within James Scholars, typically there's some type of curricular component that might be a particular honors course. It might be an honors section of a course that only honor students are in, or maybe it's a larger course, but you work directly with the professor to make it an honors course. Also, within some of the James Scholar Program, there's sort of lectures and study abroad opportunities. I know, for example, through one of the honors programs through the College of Business, there's a supplemental study abroad opportunity that's available through sort of Southeast Asian Pacific Rim countries. That's at a pretty good discount for students, so you're not paying the full cost. So those are just a couple of the examples. Again, if you're admitted to a James Scholar program, you'll get more information directly from your college, but also we have it linked from our website. So if you go to our admissions page and there's a scholarship and honor sections of that website, the honor section can give you some links if you're looking for the specific information for the honors program for the college that you're in.
All right, Lauren asking lots of good questions. She wants to know if students get discounts on tickets to events that are not sports at the State Farm Center. So yes, beyond getting discounted tickets to games, football, basketball, I have found recently that, students do get discounted tickets to a lot of the events there. Check out their website. They've got a lot of really cool events coming up all year long that you can go see right on campus. And it's a lot of fun for our students.
Yeah, and we're lucky right here in the admissions office that right across the street is the Cranert Center, which is our performing arts center. I think there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 performances a year at Cranert, and all the performances have some type of discounted student tickets from student groups, professional groups. Seemingly they're 3 or 4 nights a week. There's stuff happening at Cranert, so definitely a lot of things going on sort of the arts and entertainment area. And then one of the great things, again, I mentioned the State Farm Center finished their renovations. One of the great things with that is sort of more national performing acts are starting to come through Champaign again. So Tom Petty, Green Day, Dierks Bentley. I know I'm missing some, but those are just some people that have come or are coming in the next few months. So also some national performing acts that come through where you can get some discounted student tickets as well.
Okay, so a couple good questions here. If I accept my offer of admission early, do I have a better chance to choose housing? So the priority, you have plenty of time because the priority deadline for the housing lottery actually isn't till May 15th. So take your time, and then at that point within those students there will be a lottery for housing selection. We also had some questions about roommate choices and how that works out. Do you want to touch upon that a little bit?
Sure. As far as roommate selection and matching and those types of things, I think there's almost no wrong way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The university, if you go through university housing, which is one of your options, does have sort of a roommate matching service where you can answer some questions about yourself and you can try to find people that have I'm a night person, I'm a morning person, I'm a clean person, I'm a messy person, sort of those type of lifestyle questions, and you can try to match up that way. Definitely, independent of the university, we know that folks sometimes seek out people on social media, those types of things, or room with friends. The one thing that I would say is our friends over in housing tell us all the time, because I think people are, maybe sometimes a little bit nervous about who they're rooming with or living with if they haven't met that person before. But again, what our friends in housing sort of tell us is that they don't see any real difference between the people who knew each other before they roomed together and the people who didn't as far as how well they get along. Almost all roommate situations go well. Many times, end up being very good friends. But even if not, you're able to live together and have a good relationship that way. But we really don't see a huge difference whether you sort of go random roommate and room with someone you haven't met before or your best friend from high school. So you just have to pick what's right for you, but we'll sort of help you in that process if it's something that you want help with through university housing.
Okay, so lots of questions about housing right now. So while you're also listening to this, feel free to have another window open with their website just to bookmark for your reference because they've got some great information on there as well. But there are a variety of dorms. I know I saw a question asking if there were freshman-specific dorms or how they were broken up. I don't believe we do have any freshmen specific.
Yeah, so in the housing process, current students, continuing students, so sophomores, juniors, seniors, they're signing up for housing before first-year students. So because of that, there are some residence halls that have a higher percentage of upper-class students if it's seen as a quote-unquote better location. Again, location all depends on who you are and what buildings your classes are in. But there definitely are residence halls that are predominantly freshmen. There are specific wings or floors or spaces in residence halls that are specifically reserved for freshmen and first-year students, so there are spaces that are specifically freshman spaces. But there isn't a residence hall that is, by design, 100% first-year students. But you definitely will find wings or floors or even entire residence halls that might be predominantly freshmen. And again, you'll find some other residence halls that might be a little bit higher percentage of upperclassmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors.
Yep. And then one question touched upon that we actually at University of Illinois are a little unique in that we have private certified and university housing, and that's exactly true. So university housing, that's pretty much your classic college living experience, of which we have 24 of those buildings. And they're kind of like, if you look at a map, they're in like an arc around our campus. So no matter where your classes are, you have a really good option there. But then what's unique is we also have private certified. And those are a little different. Again, basically, as the name states, they're actually privately owned, but certified by the university as great options for our students to live in. So if you're interested in that, check out their website because you can actually check off all the different things that you might be interested in looking at, and then they can match you to one that might best fit your needs. So, and I think our actually university housing website might do that as well. So there are some great options there regardless of which option you go. Most students live in university housing, then I think it's about 27% or so choose to live in private certified housing as well.
Yep.
Okay, so to answer the question about merit-based scholarships, were all applications reviewed for merit-based scholarships? And if so, will they be in the mail with our acceptance letter?
Sure. So similar to honors programs I talked about earlier, merit-based or academic scholarships, again, completely based off the application for admission. It definitely is a competitive process to get an academic scholarship at Illinois, but it is an automatic consideration. Now, the majority of our scholarship decisions were made, and students were notified of scholarships when they were admitted. So if you did receive one of those scholarships at the time of admission, right now it'll actually be listed in your admitted student checklist, and it will tell you what scholarship you were awarded and the amount and those types of things. While the majority were awarded, there are some that have not yet been awarded. So it's not like everything under the sun from the university has been awarded, but it is important to remember that yes, the majority of scholarships have been awarded at this point. And again, it is a very competitive process. One thing again I'd point out is, again, there's the need-based process, filling out the FAFSA, getting that information in February. And then there also are opportunities for current students to apply for scholarships. And those are often scholarships that are offered by a specific college or by a specific major for students in that college and major. Because typically they're going to give those scholarships to juniors and seniors who are 100% declared in that major, not at that point not going to switch their major, have done some great things at the university. So certainly it's not guaranteed by any means, and I don't want to give the impression that everyone gets a scholarship after they enroll, but there are some additional opportunities after you enroll at the university to get some additional scholarships and apply for some additional scholarships as well.
Okay. When will I receive my acceptance mailed letter? So our NOA is what we call it. For right now, our notice of admission.
Yes, NOA, notice of admission.
So for right now, those PDFs are being uploaded over the next week onto your actual MyIllini account. So at least in the meantime, if you need a copy, you'll have it there. And then for our domestic students, you should be receiving those shortly afterwards.
Yep, we've been printing and stuffing packets the last couple days, so I know we had a lot go out yesterday, we had a lot go out today, we'll have some go out tomorrow. So it just sort of depends a little bit on when your particular letter got stuffed and when it will go out. We plan to have all those out this week, so it should be out pretty shortly. Just a quick note for anybody who might be logging in and watching this from international locations. We do only mail within the United States. So if you are currently outside of the United States, as Sammy mentioned, you do have a copy of your admission letter at the bottom of your admitted student checklist. So you have a copy of that, and there's also a lot of other great information through the admitted student checklist at our website, but we only physically mail the packets with the physical admission letter to those with domestic U.S. addresses.
Exactly. All right, I've recently noticed that my application says I've been invited to honors programs. Congratulations! Does this mean that I'm already in the programs, or do I need to wait? So yes, On your MyIllini account, in addition to your acceptance, you might have also seen some other information as well, such as scholarships or honors. So if that is there, you have been offered those programs or those scholarships. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, and so for the honors programs, the honors programs again will be in touch with you. Again, you probably just got the notice, so it's probably we're thinking more after the new year, maybe January or so. They will get in touch with you with more about the programs, and they will ask you to say, do you want to be part of the program? You are in it if you want to be in it, but we do not force you to be in an honors program. So some of the honors programs will ask you to affirmatively say, yes, I would like to be in the honors program. So just be aware of that. Watch your email, watch your mail over the next few weeks and months. But you will be getting information from them, and you just have to reply and say, yes, I do want to be in the honors program.
Perfect. Okay. And then I know I saw earlier, it keeps hiding on me, but I think I saw Mike wanted to know a little bit more about our College of Education.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So the College of Education, I think one of the great things about our College of Education, I talked a little bit about transitioning from to a large university. College of Education is one of our smaller colleges at the university, and really I think has a great community feel. The enrollment, the freshman enrollment in the College of Education is usually somewhere around 150 students. So you have the ability really to get to know other folks that are in your college and in your program really well. The other thing they do really well is giving you early experiences in the classroom, working with children and other folks in the K through 12 system. So you have some exposure to that early on. Certainly we're not throwing you in and having you do student teaching your first semester, but we're giving you opportunity through programs, for example, like America Reads, which we do in the local Champaign-Urbana public school system. So you have an opportunity to sort of get in the classroom and do a lot of hands-on thing, in addition to sort of all of the theory and pedagogy type things that you're doing with your classes. And again, to plug visits again, I'll probably do this again a few more times. If you visit the College of Education, or really any college, they can really give you some good info about the curriculum, and honestly probably in a little bit more detail than myself and the admissions office is able to do, because they're the ones who are your instructors or working with the education students on a day-to-day basis. But I know there's a lot of marriage of sort of the theory and the practice within our College of Education. I think that's one of the great strengths of the college.
Sure. Now, switching gears a little bit, we can touch upon this again, absolutely. Alejandro wanted to know a little bit more about living learning communities. So, as we talked about prior, these are opportunities for students to opt into smaller communities within the larger residence hall. So think of it probably as like a floor or maybe an area within a residence hall that's specifically designated for, say, students in performing arts, or for women in math, science, and engineering, or another one, for example, is Global Crossroads, and so on. I believe we have about 10. So it really creates that smaller community of students within the larger campus overall, and then you actually take a class with those students here in the community, and you can opt into doing that. So that you are learning and engaging more in the actual interest or background that the community surrounds, I guess I could say.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. How is the startup culture at UIUC?
Yeah, I would say definitely that's something that's really flourished over the last few years particularly. I've worked in the admissions office and been in Illinois since 2008, and not that I'm directly involved in that, but I've just seen that culture really flourish, especially over the past few years. One thing that I definitely point out is Research Park. It is a fantastic research part of campus, and although yes it says research, it's really a place for companies and organizations. And as part of Research Park, they have a business incubator and really do a lot of work with startup companies and entrepreneurship. There's definitely a lot of emphasis in that. In the College of Business, there's an entrepreneurship sort of concentration in courses that you can take within the College of Business. Also within our College of Engineering and a lot of our STEM fields, there's a lot of emphasis on that as well. It's a really good culture. Certainly, for the size of Champaign-Urbana, and again, I don't know who is watching maybe has been or has not been to campus, but we are, a smaller city, but the culture is much beyond the population of the city, and there's so much going on sort of in especially technology, entrepreneurship, startups. I can even, again, off the top of my head, think of a couple of our former tour guides who are now graduates, who are working for startup companies or have started companies themselves. So there's definitely a great culture here around that, and also a lot of clubs and organizations involved in that. So although I specifically mentioned, business and engineering, don't feel like you have to be in one of those colleges in order to pursue that that type of endeavor if doing a startup or entrepreneurship is something that you're interested in.
Yeah, and that's a great question because there's so many different ways to get hands-on experience here, to be applying what you're learning in the classroom and actually creating knowledge for the future, whether you're doing research or internships or working on a startup. So absolutely, you have all those opportunities here at the University of Illinois. Now, let's see. How is diversity on campus?
Yeah, so at Illinois we really think of diversity broadly, and it is a very diverse campus. I think first of all, if you just look at the types of students that come to the University of Illinois, that's the thing, well, not the thing, but one of the things that I really love about the university is there are 150 majors, and so we have students here that are studying chemistry, and we have students here that are studying music performance, and we have students here that are studying crop sciences and journalism and all these different variety of majors. So I think that brings just intellectually a very diverse set of students here. If you're looking geographically, certainly we're a state institution. Some of the neighborhood of 72-73% of our students are from Illinois. We also have students from all across the country, all across the globe that come to University of Illinois. If you're looking at racial and ethnic diversity, we're definitely one of the most diverse campuses if you're comparing us, for example, to other Big Ten schools, other similar sort of state universities. Racial and ethnic diversity, we're very diverse in that way. Religious, political, along a lot of different spectrums. So I think the benefit of that is sort of, both sides of the coin, if you will, is that if you come to the University of Illinois, you're going to find students who have similar backgrounds, similar interests, as yourself, but the flip side of that coin is you're going to get the opportunity to interact with people who have different backgrounds, different interests, different opinions, so you really have the ability to have this really broad scope experience at the university. And a lot of it is the students, because you definitely learn a ton from our professors, taking nothing away from them, but I really feel like you learn just as much from the people that you are rooming with, the people that live down your hall, the people in your club, the people that you study with in your study group. And so I think that's one of the great things about the university, is its diversity in so many different facets.
All right. Along that line, actually, we had a question of whether there were any Jewish-affiliated buildings on campus. So across the board, yes, you will find buildings, organizations, congregations for many different religions because so many of them are represented here on campus.
Yeah, and specifically Jewish, I know that we have the Cohen Center, our Hillel chapter on campus. I believe if I'm remembering correctly, it was one of the first, if not the first, Hillel in the country. So there's a lot of history there, and then also another Jewish center on campus is Chabad. So those are two options that at least pop to the top of my head for Jewish students. But definitely, there are tons of religious organizations, both on and very near off campus. So whatever your particular religious background, if you're interested in joining that organization or being part of that religious organization, church, synagogue, whatever it might be, I'm willing to bet you that opportunity is available in Illinois.
Yeah. And these have been some great questions.
Yeah, keep them coming.
Feel free to keep them coming. I apologize if I missed yours because I can only see a few at once. So feel free to, rewrite it if you need to or something. Or, of course, you can always just email us, call us. Let me see what we have right now. And we also have a couple that we got prior to.
Yeah,
okay.
so I'll maybe take while Sammy's looking at some of the questions that have come in, and we can maybe catch up on some we might have missed. Here's another question that we get pretty often, is questions about pre-professional programs. So maybe you're interested in going to medical school or a physician's assistant or law school or something like that that's going to require graduate study. At the University of Illinois, those are not majors unto themselves, those are really educational goals, and you can major in whatever you'd like and pursue those goals. Now that being said, for example, let's say the student who's interested in going to medical school we tend to see a lot of students going into biology or chemistry, but don't feel like you're limited to that. And the great thing is we have centralized advising through our Career Center. So for example, through our Career Center we have a pre-health advising, so if you're doing med school, dental, vet, anything like that, you can go to that centralized resource for some advising about the prerequisite courses you need to take, the admissions exam, MCAT in the case of medical school. Same setup for law school. We have a pre-law advising office on our campus who will help you through that process for searching for law schools, preparing for the LSAT. There's also a lot of graduate school fairs. So, a lot of colleges and universities from across the country recruit on Illinois' campus to have Illinois students continue their education at their medical school, their law school, their master's or PhD programs. So there's a lot of support for that on campus, and if you're interested in the pre-professional program, there's a lot of that there.
Okay. Emily had a great question. I apologize I didn't get to this prior because this is a really good one. Transportation for out-of-state students. Our campus is very accessible. There are a lot of ways to get around, not only while you're here, but also say when we are getting here or returning home for break. Just to give you some ideas, we do actually have, we're one of the few universities in the country to have our own self-run university airport, which is the coolest thing. It is a great airport. It's Willard, just in case you wanted to look that up. But beyond that, there's also trains. There are shuttles and buses that run to and from the airports and then local areas around Chicago. So that makes it very easy, and that's a favorite among our students. And then on campus, there are also Zip Cars, which is like a car rental company, and it's very bike friendly as well.
Yeah, and both Sammy and I originally are not from Illinois, and we both have family that are not within a couple-hour drive, so I know we, go out of town every once in a while for visiting family, and vice versa, family come into town. One thing that I would say for students, and I wouldn't say this if you're just visiting campus with family or going through this, decision-making process, but a lot of times students, there are shuttles run by some private companies that run directly to the two main airports in Chicago, so in O'Hare and Midway. So I know current students oftentimes will take the shuttle directly to those airports, and then from those two you can fly direct almost anywhere. Definitely, you can obviously fly to Champaign. I've done it many times, but sometimes it's logistically easier, so just know that it's just a bus ride away, a couple hours up to Greater Chicago to either get to O'Hare or Midway if you're from further away and looking to go back home over break, or maybe even you're a local Illinois student and over spring break you're going somewhere far away, or you have that opportunity.
All right. So on a similar note, while we're in this vein, Nina wants to know if freshmen, out-of-state students can have cars on campus. And regardless of whether we're in-state or out-of-state, the answer is yes. But then that leads to the question, should freshmen have cars on campus? So
And
you don't need it.
no.
No, because there are so many ways to get around campus. So you can.
Yeah, and if you ask our students, and again, you don't have to take our word for it, but if you ask our students, they'll tell you that you really don't need it. To be quite honest, it is pretty expensive to park your car on campus, and it's not like you'll be driving to class or probably using it daily. Again, if it's something you feel like you need to have, you have that ability, but it's certainly not necessary.
Yep, and as Lauren points out here in the comments, you can absolutely access the buses that run not only through our campus, but through the surrounding cities of Champaign and Urbana for free. So with your iPass, you can get pretty much anywhere around here, and it is very accessible. Now, I believe it was Matthew, if I scroll back, wanted to know about how AP credit works. So the nice thing, actually, if we hop onto our webpage, and I'm sure we can post the link here for you, is that we have a really nice breakdown by test of which score you get and what that then leads to. So we're going to use those scores to consider, yes, college credit, and then subsequent course placement for you.
Yep, so again, just go to the website. 3s or better give credit, but it is important to look very specifically at the test that you're taking, because the credit you get for a 3 might not be the same credit that you get for a 5. So it's important to look at that credit. And again, I know many of you seniors, we've read lots of applications, you're taking AP, maybe IB courses. your senior year. Definitely make sure that you're finishing out your senior year strong, doing well on those tests, because they can give you some credit and might give you a little bit of course schedule flexibility if you come in with some credit starting freshman year.
Okay. And we had a comment about taking, or a question I should say, about taking courses over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So will we acknowledge them? What should the student do? To give you an idea, yes, you can absolutely, as soon as you're all done with those courses, send us over the transcripts. So just like we talked about how we can evaluate the APs for course credit, we can do the same with your community college courses. But at this point, to let us know that you're taking those courses and you're anticipating to do that, once you have it, you're pretty settled on taking those, make sure you fill out the course change form.
Yep, and then we know some people might already be taking college classes now. We know some high schools have dual enrollment, so you might be taking a college course right now during the fall or spring semester with a local community college or four-year university. We just need the official transcript in order to add that credit. It is important to remember that whatever grade you get in that class will come into the University of Illinois and will be part of your transfer GPA. So another just friendly reminder to make sure that you're doing well in your courses because that will be part of your transfer GPA if it's a transferable course. And then one resource that I'd give to you is using transferology.com, just like it sounds, transferology.com. And that's a course search database that the University of Illinois and some other universities participate in. So you can actually create a course search between wherever you're taking your classes or thinking about taking classes in the University of Illinois, and you can see how those transfer in. It's based on what students have transferred in previously, so if you're looking at a college or university that we've had a lot of transfer credit coming with, you're going to find a really robust list of how courses transfer in. So that can be helpful if you're thinking about, well, what is it do I want to take, or if I take this course, will it transfer? That's really the best resource to get your answers.
Great timing. We just had a question about how can we know if classes will transfer. So
Transferology.
Very good. There you go. Let me see here real quick what we've got going on in our. I have to hit the refresh button a lot for
Yeah, we appreciate all the questions, so it's good that we can't keep up with them.
Yeah. Okay. So
it looks like we had a question maybe about residency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tuition at the University of Illinois, since we're a public university, is based on residency. So we have resident tuition for Illinois residents, and then we have out-of-state and international tuition for students who do not live in Illinois. So to qualify for in-state tuition or residency, if you live with your parents or guardians, have gone to high school and lived in Illinois, you're pretty clearly an Illinois resident. So that's probably the most common way to qualify for in-state tuition. Now there might be an occasion if you don't live in the state of Illinois that you might still qualify for in-state tuition. So a couple quick examples. One is maybe you live out of state but one of your parents does live in Illinois. As long as one of your parents lives full-time in Illinois and is a bona fide Illinois resident, even if, say, perhaps you might live with your other parent in a different state, you would still qualify for in-state residency. Another example would be if your parent or parents are in the military and they're currently deployed. Let's say that you have kept Illinois as your sort of state home of record, but your parents and you are currently in Korea because they are deployed on an Army base there. You might still be able to qualify for in-state tuition. It is quite hard if you live out of state, your parents live out of state currently and have been throughout high school. It is very difficult, to be quite honest, to qualify for in-state tuition, so it's probably unlikely to have that happen. If you have some really specific questions, that's a good opportunity to call or email our office so we can get to more details about your situation. But there's just a couple quick scenarios about what it takes to qualify for in-state tuition.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So this one is about rescinding admissions offers and what that looks
like. To keep it
and
positive.
we don't want to do that, yeah, but to give you an idea, yes, that is a possibility, but we're going to do everything in our power to prevent that. So basically what that looks like is, say if a student is not maintaining the academic level that they were admitted at, we're going to go ahead and give you probably an email to give you the opportunity to explain those grades. So yes, while it is a possibility, we're not just going to do it without notifying you. There is going to be a conversation beforehand about the circumstances.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to get too worried about being rescinded, but I will say it does happen every year. It's a very small number of students, 99% plus students have no problem. But it is important that you're performing just as well as you performed your previous 3 years. And your senior year, let's just think about, if you're training for a marathon, you got to train for a few months. You wouldn't take the last 3 weeks before your marathon or month before your marathon off and then just show up and try to run a marathon. So you need to keep preparing through that senior year and doing well. And again, 99% of you, not going to be an issue. But if there is an issue, we will definitely contact you, see if there's any extenuating circumstances, those types of things. It's something we don't like to do, but unfortunately, we do have to do on rare occasions each year.
No senioritis. Finish strong. Okay. So another question about hands-on opportunities that we get a lot is about internships, which many of our students participate in, not just in business, not just in engineering, but across the board. And we have some fantastic career services throughout our campus, throughout our different colleges, to help kind of connect you to those opportunities, whether it is here on campus, in surrounding areas, so on and so forth. There are plenty of opportunities for internships across programs.
Yeah, Sammy sort of mentioned it a little bit, but career fairs, internship fairs, the Career Center is really great at working with students. I think a lot of students, you think about getting an internship or getting a job, which is very important. But also remember, career services can help you figure out what type of internship do I want? What do I want to do with my particular education? Because no matter what degree you're getting, you're going to have a lot of options for the things that you do after you get out of school. And so the Career Center can sort of help you with that process, and definitely, having on-campus internship interviews and having good relationships with companies and organizations is something that we definitely have for students.
Yeah, and it's a great way to see kind of in the real world how the major or the career that you're actually interested in works kind of on a temporary, perhaps summer, year-long basis, so that you can really get some hands-on experience, get comfortable with it, and be absolutely sure that this is the thing that you love. So, and yeah, absolutely, and we have some information about our career centers there in the comments for you. Similarly, jobs on campus, plenty of opportunities, whether you want to work in one of our on-campus or off-campus areas, but students can have the opportunity to do work study or to do just your typical hourly job that you can get throughout different departments.
Yeah, I think the statistic is somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 student employees. So I mean, there are thousands of opportunities on campus. So if you're looking at having a part-time job while you're at Illinois, you will be in good company with a lot of other students that work on campus.
And then another engagement question, how easy is it to engage in a community-based volunteer
organization?
Yes.
I think I saw it before it disappeared. Yeah, I would say definitely service and volunteer work is something that is part of the sort of university community. And again, I keep using examples of tour guides, but that's who I know the best, who are students, and I can think of 10 or 12 that do some type of volunteer or service work. Some of them are through their student organizations on campus. I know, for example, I've said a couple times, we've talked about Greek life. There's actually a big service component, and a lot of students who are involved in Greek life do service through that. But there's also definitely tons of community organizations that are really easy to get involved in, whether you want to work with youth, you want to work with healthcare issues, you want to work with issues of poverty or those types of things. There's so many avenues to do service, both on and off campus. I know a number of our students who have done alternative spring break service trips, so that's obviously a very off-campus experience, but lots of opportunities to do service. And again, those student organizations is where you're going to find a lot of those, and a lot of what they do is off campus.
And that kind of reminds me, speaking of service trips, I remember earlier in a post we had a question about study abroad, which is a large, amazing program at the University of Illinois. We have our students going on over 400 different programs across over 60 different countries every year. Basically, unless you want to go to Antarctica, we've got you covered. So there are a lot of different opportunities, no matter what your major is. So they can absolutely work with you to fit that within your academic plan of study. You can go for a full year, you can go for a semester, you can go over break if you just can't be away from the campus during the academic year. So there's a lot of flexibility there, and there's some great opportunities. Okay. So we did have a couple questions about changing your major from the one that you were offered. So can we talk a little bit about the program change form?
Sure. Yeah. So in the admissions process, again, you've gone through it, so you applied to a particular college and major through the admissions process and have the opportunity to put a second choice. So whether, let's say, you've been admitted to your first choice major, but now you've had a change of heart for whatever reason, or maybe you applied to the university and did not get into your first choice major, so now you're thinking, okay, how do I change my major into what my first choice is? There are some some things that you need to think about if you're thinking about changing your major before going through the process. So we only allow students to apply to one college and one major at a time and be admitted to one college and one major at a time. So if you are thinking about changing your major before enrollment, the most important thing I can tell you is contact our office. That's really going to be an individualized question. It will depend a little bit on what program you were admitted to and what program you want to change to. Are they in the same college? Are they admitting at similar levels? If you are looking to change into music, you have to do an audition, so that's a very different process. So that's the first thing that I would tell you, is that if you're thinking about changing your major, definitely send us an email, or probably even better, give us a call. 217-333-0302 is our number, 8:30 to 5 Central. We're open tomorrow and Thursday. Our office does close on Friday for the winter break. So that's the first thing that I would say. Now, for the process of changing your major, we'll sort of talk you through that. If you have been admitted in this first round, just know that there is a possibility you're giving up your spot in your current admitted program to be considered for another program. Because we want to make sure that students are all being treated the same way in the admissions process and aren't sort of reserving a spot in one area while simultaneously being considering us for a spot in another area. So that's something to be aware of, and again, definitely call our office and we can talk you through that process a little bit. Enrolling at the university, I know some of you maybe didn't join right at the top, but we did talk a little bit about declaring majors, and especially if you start off undeclared. Typically, you're going to have to remain and be in your program of study for at least your freshman year, and sophomore year is the time to change. Beginning, middle, end, and again, there's an ICT, intercollegiate transfer process, that you'll need to follow as far as what courses you'll need to take, what GPA you might need, and those vary by college. So again, that's sort of a general answer. I know there's probably some specific questions about, well, I'm admitted to X, what about getting into Y? Those are really more individual questions. We're happy to answer those if you contact our office.
Yeah. Now, speaking about business specifically, that is, I know you go in unassigned. That's a little bit different than being undeclared, because you are starting out within this school business, and then we'll declare your major within that, I believe it's like the end of your
second year, yeah.
Okay. So as we
just so you know, we're going to get ready to wrap up here in a couple minutes. So we're going to try to get to a couple more questions before we wrap up. We know that, again, we've missed some during the scroll, or you might have some questions that are very specific to your situation. Again, our office is open tomorrow and Thursday. Give us a call, give us an email. We're happy to help. If you don't get to us before the break, our office opens up back after the break on January 3rd.
Okay. And for students who accept an offer to a second choice major, to answer your question, David, they are on a wait list, or, regardless of whether you were down for your second choice major, those students are on a wait list for their first choice major. So as long as you were given that second choice, know that is, we will let you know if space opens up in your first choice major. Okay. We talked a little bit before about our Greek life system, and Lauren wants to know a little bit about the balance there for students, whether or not you rush. And you're right. There is a large system that we have on campus, the largest in the country, I believe, by membership. But I believe it's only about 25% or so. So there's absolutely, whether you choose to get involved or not, there's really a good presence of both students, and we find that both absolutely find friendships, relationships, interact with each other. So it's completely okay, as per your question, if you choose not to rush. And as we talked about, there are so many other things that you can get involved in as well.
Yep, so just a couple quick stats. It is the largest in terms of number of chapters, so that's the one good thing. If you're interested in Greek life, you have a lot of options. But in terms of percentage of students, again, like Sammy said, about a quarter, 25%-ish. So if you don't rush, you're with the majority. You're with 75% of our students.
Okay.
So maybe if we have a chance for one last
One
question,
last
or
question.
some wrap-up comments if we have any.
Okay. I think we covered these. Could you get into your Yeah, we got that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything on that?
I think we covered some main ones. Again, there's some other ones here that I think might be better answered individually as opposed to on Facebook Live. So definitely, again, call, email our office. I'll plug that one more time before we sign off. Phone number 217-333-0302. Open 8:30 to 5. Again, we'll be open tomorrow and Thursday before closing for the winter break. You can also shoot us an email, admissions@illinois.edu. One more time, admissions@illinois.edu. So I want to say thanks. I mean, this is the first time we're doing this. The time flew by. We were like, will we get enough questions to fill an hour? And the answer was yes. We really appreciate all the questions that came in and everybody logging in to take a look.
Yeah, and congratulations again on your acceptances. We thank you for joining us tonight and look forward to continuing to interact with you over the coming months.
Yep, congratulations. Have a great winter break.
Bye, guys.
Bye.